there's anybody in Bitcoin who doesn't feel like they paid too much when they bought it. They hated the fact that it was where it was when they bought it. But, I mean, what I always say is just wait 5 years and, you'll feel like you're a genius. Hey, I bought some at the peak pre the SBF crash. I bought some at 65. And when it went to 15, I wasn't feeling great about it, but I knew I wasn't wrong. And now it's at 104 and, someday it'll be 204. So if I paid 65 for that, so what? You know what I mean? So you just have to get into it wherever it is at any given point in time, and then you have to let it compound. I mean, it's going to compound, consistently and patiently for years and years.
In this market analysis, we explore the latest insights from Lawrence Lepard as he shares his perspective on the Bitcoin market in a recent interview on the Brandon Gentile channel. He discusses where he believes Bitcoin is headed this year, why consistent accumulation is crucial, and how the broader picture may unfold in the future. Let's dive into his key takeaways and what they could mean going forward.
That's the biggest objection I've encountered recently. Prior to that, the biggest objection was, well, the government's going to ban this. It's a nice libertarian fantasy, but it's never going to happen. Well, then the ETF got approved. And so they kind of had to throw that one out. So, but yeah, the price is a problem. And you say, well, it's too expensive, I can't buy it. I mean, I think some other people who aren't, if you're not terribly sophisticated, some people make the, well, I can't afford 100,000. Well, of course not, but you can buy, a tenth of a coin or 1/100th of a coin. I mean, you can put $100 into Bitcoin. You can put any number into Bitcoin. It's divisible to 100 million Satoshis. So that's not really a stopper,
Where do you see that going, Larry? Because you talked about the power law, say 200,000 is kind of like your low end of the low rung on the ladder this cycle. We talked about Dr. Jeff, so 475, Samson's at $1 million, Jack Mallers is 250 to $1 million. How do you kind of like what model do you kind of what's the Larry model? Like, how do you kind of see that? Because it's like you said, the big print, we had 5-10 trillion, just printed in the last 5-6 years. I mean, is it 10, 20, 50 trillion this next time? Like,
I think it is. I mean, Bernanke printed, 3 or 4, and then that became, 5 to 7. And now, I think the next one is 10 to 15 or maybe more. I mean, a lot of it has to do, there are a lot of policy choices that get made, but a lot of it has to do with quote unquote something breaking. I mean, it kind of depends on, a crisis. Like if, for example, the stock market were to fall or unemployment, or unemployment were to squirt up and people were to start to get cautious. And there's just a lot of stuff lining up, Brandon, that leads me to believe that, we're going to, it's very possible we're going to break the power law model on the upside here in this cycle. I mean, I think this cycle hits 200 very easily. I think, that's kind of a done deal. And then, it could, with some of these other things kicking in, it could go a lot farther. We just don't know. I mean, Samson thinks it goes to $1 million. I don't know. It's possible. I mean, Dr. Jeff thinks it goes to 500,000, 700,000. I mean, anything's possible. As we all know with this asset, it trades like a wild animal. Now, it could also go to those numbers and then have a decent sized correction too, which it's also done in the past. So keep that in mind. I'm not sure I want to be buying it at 750, but
In saying that, I want to go back really quick to the
Sure.
gold thing. Do you have a ratio? Is there a Lepard model where because you've always said gold moves first and snuffs things out, and then Bitcoin rips, after that, and Bitcoin really is the mover, right? So
Bitcoin's going to continue to massively outperform gold, and Bitcoin is going to eventually demonetize gold. But I say eventually cautiously because it doesn't happen overnight, and so. In this inflationary cycle, I have every confidence gold will get to 5,000, 10,000, maybe 15,000. But while it's doing that, 5,000 would be, almost a double. Bitcoin's going to go from 100,000 to $1 million, and from $1 million to 2 million. So which is going to outperform Bitcoin by a huge measure. But gold isn't going to go away because there's 6 or 8 billion people on the planet. A lot of them think gold is sound money. And the money, the base money, the fiat currencies are all failing. So they're both going to go up a lot. But Bitcoin's going to continue to demonetize gold. It's going to demonetize real estate. I mean, there's so much monetary premium in things where it really shouldn't be there. I mean, real estate, it's a place to live. It's nice. I mean, the nice thing is it can't print any more of it, but it only has, it ought to be valued on its utility, not because it's a store of value. Because there are much better stores of value, Bitcoin being one of them. So, Yeah, that's how you get to just numbers that are much higher than what we're looking at today. As these other things become demonetized.
Did you see? I have one more follow up on this
Yeah,
gold thing
yeah,
and Sailor. I want to get your thoughts on. But did you see Mark Moss's presentation when you guys were over in the Middle East when he
yeah.
broke down the numbers? That to me was one of the best breakdowns of the numbers. To your point, it kind of visually charted out what you just said of gold's going to go up. A lot of these assets are going to go up seemingly in nominal value, but Bitcoin is going to continue eating these things up. And he kind of played it out over 50 years. And it was fascinating because you still see Bitcoin only being whatever. It's a small part in a sense of maybe 1/5 of the monetary value in the world. But at that point, Bitcoin's worth like $84 million. But these other things are still massive. And I think that was the point he was trying to make.
Yeah, there will always be stocks, and gold will
right.
Gold will, I think, always have some value because it's rare and scarce. It'll trend toward quote unquote what I call jewelry value. But yeah, no, there's a lot of room ahead, and that's why those of us who are in this area and in this trade are so excited. I mean, I've said it many times. I say it in the book. I mean, this is the most asymmetric bet I've ever seen, and generally speaking, to get a really asymmetric bet means you can only lose 1x and you can make 2 to 500x. Generally, to get a good asymmetric bet, you've got to find, a company that's growing, that's going to be well managed, and it's going to do the right things. And so you're dependent upon the management team. I mean, for every Microsoft, there are a lot of shitty companies that are, that were in tech that weren't so well managed, didn't become Microsoft. And here you really don't have a management team. I mean, you have the core developers, but everyone votes on it. I think the protocol is pretty well set. We had the fork wars, we had the block size wars. I mean, all that got kind of resolved. I don't think it's changing from here forward. So with that in mind, now it's just on autopilot. It's just going to run itself out until, we're doing transactions to Satoshis, and everyone's going to say, what's the dollar? There won't be a dollar value for Bitcoin because nobody will use dollars anymore. I mean, that's where we're headed. Now, some would say that's 50 years out, and maybe they're right. I tend to think it's a lot shorter than that, a lot shorter. But we'll have to see. I mean, it's, the trend, though, is extremely clear, which is why, Saylor's strategy of sell it's just Gresham's law on a mass scale, right? Sell the thing that's depreciating, the dollar, buy the thing that's going up, Bitcoin, okay? That's it. I mean, it's not any more complicated than that. It's just you do that and rinse, wash, repeat, and just, let time do its thing. Because it's true that in 5 years, Bitcoin will be somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million a coin.
So the last thing on gold really quick, what are your thoughts on Saylor saying we should sell some of our gold that we have in the United States and buy Bitcoin with it?
I don't think it's as crazy as some people have said it is. I mean, I think that, gold is going to get demonetized. It's interesting because there's a lot of debate around this whole area of, do you want the national federal government to be strong? I mean, Peter Schiff said, well, if you're saying the government should buy, Bitcoin, that you're being a statist because you want to prop up the government. And there's a whole hardcore libertarian part of the Bitcoin world that says, like, screw propping up the government, screw a strategic reserve, screw Jason Lowry. I just want the fucking government to fail. Let's just let them go bankrupt and fail, and we'll figure out some better solution. I'm sympathetic to that, but I also think that, there still is a little bit of a great powers competition left, and there are these spheres of the world, and China's one, and Russia's one, and the Middle East is another, and these spheres all have influence over other parts of the world, and I honestly I'd rather, I think, live under our rule of law than China's rule of law or Russia's rule of law, and our political system, as broken, as dysfunctional as it is, I still think it's better than theirs, and so I do kind of want to see the U.S. way prevail. And that being the case, I want to see the U.S., if we're going to do strategic reserve kind of stuff, it might as well make it in the thing that's the best, which is Bitcoin. And so, Russia and China have bet on gold, very bigly. I mean, especially China. Russia, I think, might be stacking Bitcoin. I don't know, but I tend to believe they get it a little bit better.
Bitcoin is seeing a strong rally today, currently trading around $19,700. This comes after it hit an all-time high of nearly $112,000 last week. While the price has started to stabilize, it remains close to that peak. The recent surge is driven by increasing investor confidence, especially following President Trump's decision to postpone new tariffs on European goods, which has helped ease economic concerns. In addition, major companies like Strategy have made significant Bitcoin purchases, signaling growing institutional trust in the cryptocurrency's future. Analysts remain optimistic, with some forecasting that Bitcoin could reach $120,000 if the current momentum continues. Overall, Bitcoin's upward trend reflects a mix of market enthusiasm and supportive economic policies. If you found this explanation helpful and easy to understand, consider subscribing to our channel.